Welcome to Brothers-In-Flaw Sports. I'm your host, Normie, and we have our other host, Cunyato, and we are here to talk to you on this fine Sunday morning about some football. So how you doing, Cunyato?
Oh, I'm doing all right, Normie. Ready to talk a little ball. Although, I think today it seems we're going to be a little bit college football heavy, even though it's an NFL Sunday. But that works out because we'll just get everybody caught up and get ready for the big boy football coming on later today.
Yep. And if time permitting, I thought we would go through the games that we do have today. Talk about those. So it'll be more than just college football. And I think Cunyato is a little frozen there. So let's see. Let me share this screen real quick. Hopefully it pops back in. All right. And he's still a little frozen. So first topic off today, while we wait for Cunyato to pop back in, the college football coaching carousel. It's been a crazy year. I mean, there's always some big jobs that open up usually, but this one, I mean, you're talking LSU, Oklahoma opened up at one point, USC, like Notre Dame. There's some big jobs out there that had opened up, and let's see. Okay, so Cunyato's having some computer issues. He should be back on as soon as possible. But yeah, it has been a crazy coaching year as far as the coaching carousel goes. So just a few of the smaller ones. I don't want to talk about the bigger ones yet. I want to let Cunyato get in on this. But Temple's got a new coach. It's the former Texas running back coach. So Stan Drayton and Rod Carey was the older coach. So at Duke, you had David Cutcliffe, and he was there for a while. I mean, it's at least 10 years or so. I mean, he was there for a long time. I mean, Duke football has not really ever been a huge job, and not like the basketball. But I know one year they did end up making it to the ACC championship. But other than that, I mean, it was just regular Duke football. But David Cutcliffe is older, but they ended up getting Mike Elko, the former Texas A&M defensive coordinator. So let's see. So Nevada, Jay Norvell left and went to another school, so they brought in Ken Wilson, the Oregon inside linebackers coach. I know Nevada has been pretty good as of lately, so hopefully Ken Wilson can kind of keep that up. Next, we got FIU. Butch Davis was the coach there, and now it is Michael McClintyre. He was the Memphis defensive coordinator. Let's see. So yeah, here's where Jay Norvell ended up. Oh, thanks for showing up, Cody. So fun fact, Cutcliffe coached my dad in high school. That's pretty cool. What high school did your dad go to? There he is.
Sorry about that, guys. That was weird. I mean, I was mid sentence and then it just my browser. My computer didn't shut off or anything. Just my browser just shut down and then wouldn't let me click back in for about 5 minutes.
I swear that's never happened.
Not the first time folks have heard that.
So Cody's here. Banks in Birmingham. Cutcliffe was like 23. Okay. So David Cutcliffe actually coached Cody's dad.
Oh yeah. I think he had told me about that before. Yeah, he was in the Birmingham area for a little while before he moved on and became one of the better coaches in modern history. At
Yeah.
least one of the best offensive minds. And I think he did a really good job with Duke. Duke's a tough program.
Yeah. And I started talking about the smaller jobs on here while you were getting your stuff back. So I did go over Duke a little bit. But yeah, Duke's never been that a powerhouse in football. I mean, the fact that he got them 1 year to an ACC championship is remarkable, in my
Yes, yeah.
opinion.
No, I 100% agree. And I'm glad that they treated him with a lot of respect and reverence. I think they realized, what kind of a job he did there, kind of letting him call his shot on when to walk away and all that. Which I think, yeah, I'd agree with that, Cody. I think a B plus is about right.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I mean Duke's basketball school, and he had I think multiple double digit win seasons with them, and yeah, got him to an ACC championship game.
Was that one of the Clemson years? Like
Yes, yeah,
Clemson beat them pretty badly.
yeah. As far as the ACC goes, up until this year, for the last 6 years or so before this year, it has been a one team conference.
Yeah, except for the year Notre Dame got it.
Yeah, well, and I guess I said in 6 years, and I guess that'd be maybe it's 5 years because Florida State got in 2014 when they still had Jameis for the CFP.
Yeah. All righty. So talked a little about the tempo, and I'm not really sure on these coaches, and it's Temple who has a worse program than Duke. So, but next up, Oregon. So Mario Cristobal left to go to Miami, and they ended up hiring Georgia's defensive coordinator Dan Lanning. So, what do you think about this one?
Well, I like the hire. Dan Lanning has had a pretty meteoric rise. He's still a pretty young guy. Used to be, I think he's worked with Mike Norvell, and then was on Nick Saban's staff, and then on Kirby Smart's staff. So other Mike Norvell probably won't get mentioned with the other two for much longer. Depending on how he continues at Florida State, but there for a little while, he was a really highly respected head coach, and obviously the other two are doing sustained great jobs at their programs, both in the college football playoffs this year again. So he at least knows about success. He's been around success, and I think that they went after a guy like Lanning because he is still young. He's still got the energy, and to coach at Oregon, you have got to be a balls to the wall recruiter.
Yep.
That's what Mario Cristobal was. He was flying and driving all over the West Coast because Oregon, you're not going to recruit much in-state talent. Oregon doesn't produce. It's not a football state.
Yeah.
You've got to go work California, work Washington, and work Hawaii, work, your West, or more desert states, Arizona, Utah, and you've got to go to Texas, and you might have to go to Florida and across to the East Coast a lot. So I think it's a good hire. This CBS gives it a B. I'd go about a B myself.
Yeah, I'd say so. And the Pac-12 could always use defensive coaches.
Yes,
that is one thing that is one of those things that they're really lacking in when it comes to them getting into the playoffs. It's that defense, and that's one thing that Lincoln Riley was actually building up at Oklahoma, because the Big 12 is also one of those notorious conferences where defense is a little lacking. And you saw what success that Lincoln Riley had at Oklahoma when he built up that defense.
Yeah, absolutely. And he brought Grinch with him to his job. So, maybe some more defense boost in the Pac-12. We'll get to that one.
So, yeah, they're going to need that. if they're going to compete year in and year out.
Mm-hmm.
So we got Mike Elko at Duke. We talked a little bit about David Cutcliffe. I'm not too familiar with Mike Elko. I just know that he was the Texas A&M defensive coordinator.
I know that he's highly respected as a defensive coordinator. I think he's had quite a few big stops, and he did a pretty good job with the A&M job. But I don't think he did a great job with the A&M job. I mean,
Yeah.
there were games where their defense, pretty much disappeared. And maybe not disappeared, but they weren't elite, even though they have elite talent at that program. But at the same time, that's kind of the nature of the beast of college football these days. What Lanning did with Georgia this year, other than the SEC championship, is pretty unheard of. It just doesn't really happen in most major Power Five conferences. Having a defense that holds people to under 3 touchdowns.
Yeah.
And so, I don't know. I'm kind of with you. I don't know that much or how I really feel about it. I just know that he's widely respected as a defensive mind. I couldn't even really give it a grade, honestly.
Honestly, it's kind of like the Temple thing, with Duke. If they win, 6 or 7 games a year, and then every once in a while do 8 or 9 games a year in 1 year, then they could pretty much stay there as long as they want.
Yeah. And I'm sorry, got distracted. I was trying to look something up real quick. I'm thinking that's about what he's going to do. I think he's going to be a 6 or 7 win coach, and I guess that makes him somewhat successful. But if I was him, I think I would have waited on a job where it's easier to win. But I don't know his situation, and coaches are notorious for their egos, is what I hear.
Yeah.
They think that they can win wherever, and
Yeah.
their ideas and systems are going to work. So maybe some of that played in, and who knows? Maybe he really gets it done at Duke. He's at least going to a conference that is about as wide open as it has been in the last decade.
Yep. And one of those reasons for that is our next one. We got Tony Elliott, who was the former Clemson offensive coordinator and longtime Clemson offensive coordinator, is heading to Virginia. So that's going to shake some things up. And I know later on we'll talk about Clemson's former defensive coordinator, who was there a long time as well. So you got Tony Elliott's going to Virginia. What do you think on this one?
Well, speaking of that, the ACC and all the shakeups, first off, yeah, you've got Clemson losing both their offensive coordinator and defensive coordinator, something that Dabo hasn't really had to deal with since he's been at Clemson. And they had, a pretty down year compared to what they had been doing over the last 5 or 6 years already. So very curious to see how they bounce back if they can get back to the standard that they had set for themselves before that. I know that they hired within in-house, promoted just, I think it was wide receivers coach to offensive coordinator, and I can't remember who, but it was another guy who's already on the defensive staff, just promoted him up to the defensive coordinator. So, your big dog, standing on shaky, unknown territory at least. And then you've got Mike Elko going to Duke, where Cutcliffe had Duke, year in, year out, at least a dangerous opponent, even if they didn't have the on the field record, to support, eliteness or even good. They could jump up and win a game, that they weren't supposed to under him. And now you've got Tony Elliott to Virginia, another ACC school. So yeah, I mean, a lot of upheaval in the ACC. And then you got a lot of unknowns as well. So I'm curious about this hire because Elliott, when he got there, that's where Clemson's offenses really took off. That was Deshaun Watson, really becoming an elite college quarterback, and then Trevor Lawrence and Now, obviously, this year, DJ Uyunglele in that offense was putrid, which I
Yeah.
guess is probably why he got a job like Virginia instead of maybe perhaps a job like Oregon or one of the other bigger ones, maybe Washington. I'd say Virginia's a lower tier than a lot of the jobs that came open, but I think he's going to do a good job. They've already got that cat whose name I can't think of right now at quarterback. And he's the real deal. I think he's a true freshman. I haven't heard that he was transferring out or entering the portal or anything. So he's got a proven talent to work with and hit the ground running. Yeah, they've got it as B plus. I think I'd probably go about a B plus as well, maybe a B. Just not knowing any of. I don't think he's head coached before. So
Yep. All right. So we got Ken Wilson at Nevada. I know Jay Norvell has done a pretty good job at Nevada and has been one of those that's been on the always on the name list of these bigger programs when they are looking for a coach.
mm-hmm.
But I know nothing about Ken Wilson.
Yeah, I don't really have any comments on this because I know nothing about him.
Same kind of thing with FIU with Mike McClintyre. He was former Memphis defensive coordinator.
Well, I mean, yep. They apparently don't think highly of it as a D minus there.
Yeah.
Just something else on the carousel for him. Placing Butch Davis, at least a name guy that he's replacing.
Yeah. We got Jeff Tedford in at Fresno. Let's see. Tedford led the program back to
Okay, so he's just coming back after some health issues, and looked like he had some pretty serious success beforehand. So hope good luck for him and continued health.
Yeah, I hope it works out for him. So now we got Mario Cristobal. He's going to Miami to replace Manny Diaz. This Miami thing, I don't understand how they could just do what they did. Basically, putting out a help wanted ad directly in front of their coach that they haven't fired or said anything to him about. Like, they probably never talked to him. Like, hey, or somebody go to him. I'm not officially telling you this, but you're not going to be here. You might want to start making some other plans, but instead just throwing out that help wanted ad like we're searching for a new coach.
Yeah, it's a bit of a mess there. No doubt about that. But I mean, the talent in that area of the country in South Florida is such a hotbed. The success Miami has had, even as recent as Mark Richt taking over and immediately going to 2 double-digit win seasons in his second and third year, I believe, and at one point had them ranked number 2 in the country. That's what a program like Miami can be if they get the right coach in place. Now, that coach also has to be sustainable because that's a problem that they've had basically since I can't even think of the name of the guy, but a way back guy.
Yeah.
But I like this hire. Now, how they went about it, is that a little slimy, a little underhanded? Yeah, no, I definitely is. Like, hey, you can be our coach, Manny Diaz, as long as this guy doesn't want it.
Yeah.
But if he wants it, go ahead and maybe pack your office.
Yeah.
Just get the knick-knack stuff put away.
Yeah. Maybe have the boxes ready.
Yeah.
To pack up.
Call the truck, put them on. Just put them on notice.
Yeah.
But I do like the hire though, because like we were just talking about for Lanning to Oregon, that's what Cristobal did was or recruit. He recruited his ass off, and now he gets to go do it in a place where it is so much easier to do it. I mean, the state of Florida is just a hotbed of talent, especially in that South Florida area.
Mm-hmm.
He's an alumnus, and so this is his alma mater here, uh, and he's won championships with them when he was playing. So I think it's a really good hire by them, and once again, another ACC school, so it's wide open. And I think that there's a lot of talent in place because Diaz was actually already doing a pretty good job recruiting. He just couldn't get it done on the field.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. I think it's going to be a good fit. Like I said, though, I would have some, if I were Cristobal, I would have some kind of doubts of, yeah, if they treated this guy this way, how are they going to treat me?
yeah, no, definitely. I would sleep with one eye open, at least to get started. But kind of like Harbaugh to Michigan, they do, and Scott Frost to Nebraska. They do seem to give their own guys more patience and time. People who helped them win stuff and got them as players, helped bolster their programs' prestige. And Cristobal was a part of that. So I think he's going to get a little bit longer of a leash than they were giving Diaz, but I don't think he's going to need it so much. I really expect him to have success. And I could be dead wrong here. I mean, we never know until we know.
Yeah. All right. So Jay Norvell, who left Nevada, is now at Colorado State. Places Steve Adazio.
Yeah, and Adazio was an absolute mess. That anything would have been an upgrade from what happened there. And then Norvell has had some success with Nevada, so I think this is a good hire. I'm excited to see him at a bigger program, working his way
Yeah.
up at least.
All right. Now one of the bigger ones, Brent Venables, defensive coordinator. He goes to replace Lincoln Riley at Oklahoma. So, do you think this was Brett Venables waiting for this job to open? Because it seemed like he stayed at Clemson a lot longer than what I would think he would have stayed at, because pretty much every year he was the number one guy on most lists for big programs.
Yeah, I think it's kind of the right uh, right place, right time. I think that he's a guy that has a lot of patience, and he didn't want to take over a job that didn't already have all the pieces right there in place to be successful immediately. Now, I
Yeah.
will say he's kind of gotten set back with Riley taking all of the recruits pretty much that he was getting to Oklahoma, now just taking them with him to USC. But the cupboard's not bare. There's still a lot of talent in Oklahoma, and Oklahoma has direct pipelines to Texas and Louisiana and all of the surrounding states that are and Oklahoma. Is a pretty big football state. So I think he was just waiting for the right one. I know there are rumors that Auburn contacted him, but from what I've heard, probably nothing solid on an actual job offer. I know he mentioned that kind of not being the fit wasn't right, but this one
Yeah.
felt like more of a right fit for him. And honestly, I was going to judge this hire by who he brought on with him, specifically offensively. And him getting Jeff Levy from Ole Miss, also an Oklahoma guy, played quarterback for them back in the day. I think it's a good move. Based on that, with him bringing Levy in, plus he's already proven over and over again, because that's one thing Clemson never fell off at is defense while he was there, but just the whole time. I think he's
Mm-hmm.
been with Dabo since Dabo took over, and I think Dabo took over in 2008 or 2009. That's a long time to be at one place and have that kind of sustained defensive success. Clemson was a good defensive team year in and year out with him. So it seems like he'll probably have that side of the ball locked down. Levy was with UCF before. He was with Lane Kiffin at Ole Miss, and they had a lot of success in the AAC under him. And then obviously Ole Miss's offense was great still this year. And I think he took it as an opportunity to kind of get away from, because he's working with Heupel, another offensive guy who has his own system. Then he's working with Kiffin, an
Yeah.
offensive guy who has his own system. Now he's going to be working with Venables, and he will be the offensive guy. So this is a chance for him to really prove himself, and it's his system. There's no doubt about who's calling the plays or whose system. It's his. So I think that's a big reason why he wanted to jump at this opportunity as well. Plus, Mama come calling. That's the alma mater.
Yeah. So Cody says, don't know a ton about Venables other than that he's been the defensive coordinator for a very successful Clemson team. But I do know that he looks like a supervillain. Yes, he has always looked like that kind of supervillain kind of guy. But most defensive coordinators, they're either really, really chill or they're really, really over the top. That I've noticed.
Yeah, there doesn't seem to be a ton of in between for them, but I 100% agree, Cody. He looks like a skeleton that put on a human skin suit, but like pulled all the excess and like rubber banded it behind him somewhere.
Yep. He definitely, and he's the guy too that don't they pay some assistant or just some person? Basically, he wears this like colored belt, and the person has to pull him off the field and keep him in the coach's box.
Yeah.
They literally paid someone just to do that, to pull him, keep him in the coach's box.
Although I don't know if they're the ones who innovated that or not, but I don't know what you'd call the sideline control guy. But a lot of programs have them now. I think even Alabama's got one.
Yeah.
Or at least a designated guy who's like, hey, if Nick's running out on the field, or hey, if Dabo or if Brent, if they're running out on the field, you give them just a little space, but don't let them go costing us yards.
Yep. So I know back when I was playing, I mean, there were these like, it was basically these adults that the coaches knew that were older guys, and they were the get back guys.
Mm-hmm.
And that was for like the players, like, okay, get back. That's all they did the entire game. Like you never saw them at practice or anything. You just saw them on the sideline during the game. And I'm like, I mean, they're wearing coaches' shirts, so I guess, yeah.
just get back.
Guess I should listen to him and get back. But yeah, the new kind of like, okay, you're in charge of Saban. You're in charge of Dabo.
Mm-hmm.
If they start running on the field, you grab their belt and pull them back.
I would be terrified to do that job for some coaches, specifically Nick Saban, Ed Ogeron, maybe Mario Cristobal. Yeah, Saban because of his anger and his ire.
Yeah.
And I still think that he could kick my ass. The other two, because not only are they pretty heated guys, they're also monsters of men.
Yep. And then especially if Orgeron gets into that, screaming out Cajun. Creole, not Kate, Creole. Start screaming that out. It's like, are you yelling at me or
casting a curse on me?
Or telling me thank you? So anyway, we got speaking of Cajuns, we got the Raging Cajuns of Louisiana. They just of course Billy Napier left to a bigger program. He's also been one of those that year in, year out, he's been on those lists of, okay, this year he's going to go to a Power 5. Well, that finally happened. But they replaced him with Mike
Desormo.
Desormo.
And I might have butchered that last name. I don't know anything about this guy, but it looks like they hired a Cajun just based on the spelling of his name.
And
he's a former UL quarterback, opted to just stay in, or they opted to stay internal, like this says.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, we'll see. I know nothing about this cat. There's big shoes to fill. Napier's had tons of success with them. Really turned that around. That's why he got one of the premier jobs this carousel around. And yeah, we'll see if this guy can keep that success up that he built. And if so, you'll probably learn his name, or I'll learn his name. We'll all learn his name, and he'll probably move on to a bigger job himself.
Yep. All right. I think this is Akron, the Zaps.
Yeah. Yeah.
So Akron hired Joe Moorhead, former Mississippi State coach and former Oregon offensive coordinator. So I just know that he's an offensive guy. Mostly what I remember when he was at Mississippi State was that he wasn't very good.
That was an abject disaster.
Yeah.
Now, granted, it's incredibly tough to go to the Mississippi States, the Vanderbilts, the Dukes, the perennial bottom tiers, especially in a program in the SEC West, or which is obviously under the SEC umbrella as a whole. Oftentimes, if you're not ready for that type of job, you're just going to be the next whipping boy at the whipping boy school. And no offense, Mississippi State fans. Obviously, Dan Mullins had you guys in a lot of really good positions. And it looks like Mike Leach. I mean, you're not the whipping boy under him. I mean,
Yeah.
the inconsistency is probably maddening, but it's usually Mike Leach's third year where he makes the big jump. So we'll see. Once again, no slight intended, Mississippi State fans. But when Moorhead is just the offensive coordinator, he's had pretty good success. He had Penn State's offense rolling with Franklin. The offense this year in Oregon was definitely shaky, but I think that a lot of that is that quarterback was incredibly inconsistent. His rushing attack before he had some injuries on the offensive line and to the two running backs on and off was quite potent. And when he gets in a rhythm, he's got a really good offensive brain. Now, Akron is a job where it seems like a lot of careers go to die. So I don't know if I would have taken this one if I was him, but once again, coach's ego, I suppose, and I'm sure he was probably ripping and raring to get another shot and build back, as the head guy. Since yes, the last time that happened, it was a shit sandwich at Mississippi State.
Yeah, it was pretty bad. But all the best to him. I hope he can bring that Akron program back up. So now we go into Notre Dame. So Brian Kelly left, which was a pretty big shocker to me. Of course, I mean, he did move on to a bigger program. Not much bigger, but bigger.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Norman.
But they ended up hiring their defensive coordinator, hired internally, to Marcus Freeman. So I'm not big on. I don't know much about him as well either.
I don't know a ton about him either. I know he worked with before, because this was his very first year as defensive coordinator at Notre Dame. Before that, he was defensive coordinator with Cincinnati. Why can I not think of his name?
Fickle.
Yes, Luke Fickle. Thank you. He was defensive coordinator there. Obviously, the Bearcats underneath Fickle, and then I guess with Marcus Freeman for some of those years have experienced a level of success that the program's never experienced before. So at least he knows about program building through what Fickle's done there and has been a bit of a part of that. And then, got to be a part of Brian Kelly's staff for 1 year. And Brian Kelly, say what you want about the guy, whether you like him or hate him or respect him or don't respect him. I don't think anybody doesn't respect him as a coach. That's what I was about to say. His level of success, he's the winningest coach in Notre Dame history. And that is saying something because Notre Dame has had some history. And he has done it in an era where Notre Dame is a much more difficult job to sustain that level of success, in my opinion. They play one of the most difficult schedules year in and year out. And I never really given much credence to that until the year they were in the ACC. And they did the exact same walkthrough that Clemson did. And in fact, beat Clemson head to head. So it just goes to show you that those losses that they take, because they do play, Michigan and USC every year and Stanford a lot. Now Stanford's terrible right now, but some of those years, especially after Harbaugh got them rolling, Stanford would jump up and bite Notre Dame. Anyways, they go out and they play. They don't search out cupcakes. Their independent schedule gives them the freedom to play dangerous opponents pretty much week in and week out. And their uh, academic standards are so much more strict than 90 to 95% of the other Power Five jobs. For the type of athlete you can bring in, is different. Or at least you're limiting your pool. You don't get to recruit everybody like some of the other big dogs. You get to
Yeah.
recruit the smartest of the best, and a lot of the times the smartest of the best might not want to come somewhere where they're also going to have to work harder in the classroom. If they're an elite talent, a lot of the time they want to focus on what they know is going to make them the millions of dollars.
Yeah.
So yeah. Anyways, well, I guess we'll get to Brian Kelly. That's a huge spiel for him. Anyways, that's what it's like to coach at Notre Dame, and the fact that they went with Marcus Freeman means they at least think that he has a chance to do some of that. It doesn't seem like they really, jump through hoops to try and go lure somebody away. They didn't hit the panic button. They were like, okay, well, we've got this young guy. I think he's only 36 years old. And then the offensive coordinator there, I can't think of his name, Jason. Anyways, he's only 28 years old.
Wow.
So they kept the youth. The players seem to love him too. So I'm really excited to see this, and I'm pulling for him. I'd like to just based on the video I saw when Marcus Freeman is announced as the new head coach, and he walks into the locker room, and the players just freak out, they explode, and huge celebration. So I don't know. I don't know much about him, but just based off that video, I'm pulling for him for the time being.
Yeah. I mean, I'm usually not pulling for Notre Dame itself, but
Yes,
I'll pull for him.
I understand. I understand that. And he did have the defense in a really good position this year. Other than the Cincinnati game, it was probably the worst defensive performance they had, and they really locked it up for the rest of the year.
Yeah.
So,
And they're heading to a New Year's Six Bowl.
yeah.
All right. So now we move on to Troy. They got John Sumrall, who replaced Chip Lindsey. What happened to Chip Lindsey? Like, it seemed like he was on the rise, and it just came crashing down.
Yeah. He I don't know. I don't know. I think he got a little bit overhyped. He was part of the early years of Clemson's major success, and did some really good things with Taj Boyd, and I think had Deshaun Watson for 1 year. But since he moved on from there and has made some other stops, Clemson's offense has only gotten better, like significantly. Now they got, better players as well. Their recruiting was going up and up and up as well, but he definitely was already recruiting with better or playing with better talent than most of his opponents in the ACC.
Mm-hmm.
And then, pretty much since then, he's maybe not a off the cliff precipitous type drop, but it seems to just get worse and worse and worse as his subsequent stops since. So I don't know. I don't know anything about John Sumrall because he's the Kentucky inside linebacker coach. So I think unless you're connected to the Kentucky program or a really truly college football insider, you don't know much about this guy. But so yeah, we'll see. I mean, he's an in-state guy now for us, so we'll hear about him.
Yeah. Fun fact about Chip Lindsey, though, his mother was my 4th grade teacher.
Oh, really?
Because he's from Madison.
Okay.
So I remember growing up and her always talking about her because he coached at Hoover for I think a year, and he was their offensive coordinator when they were having their run of good teams.
That dynasty they built for a little while.
So yeah, that woman, she taught me how to take notes. It was like 4th grade, but I learned how to take notes in 4th grade and was good all the way through college.
Wow. So, yeah, I definitely didn't start note taking until maybe 7th or 8th grade. Not my forte.
She'd get on that old school overhead projector
and just start rolling.
And just write straight on the glass of the projector. So next we got Virginia Tech. They pick up Brent Pry, who replaces Justin Fuente. He was the Penn State defensive coordinator.
Mm-hmm.
So what do you think about this one?
Well, I don't know much about this guy, but Penn State's defense was really, really good this year. So at least he had that in a place of success. Looks like he has ties to the program. He was a graduate assistant at Virginia Tech from with Frank Beamer. So he knows the program. He's been part of that program before. I think maybe that's why they went and grabbed him to try and reclaim some of that Frank Beamer level of success. Which a lot of people forget what that job was before Frank Beamer. It was an awful job. I mean, they did not win, and then Frank Beamer kind of pulled a. I'm just terrible with names this morning. Should drink beer. Well, not this Diet Coke stuff. The guy at Kansas State. Anyways. Bill Snyder.
Yeah.
Okay, thank goodness. But yeah, a lot of people forget those two coaches just because they coached at those two programs for decades, what they took over, and then what they turned those programs into. Now, obviously, Beamer at Va Tech was a little bit better than Snyder because they were competing for ACC championships and national championships a lot of his tenure there. Obviously, Fuente was a swing and a miss. Which I really thought that he was going to do well there. I'm curious to see where he lands. I still think he's got a good football brain, and he's pretty young. I think early 40s still. But yeah, we'll see what Brent Pry does. He coming from a place of success as Penn State's defensive coordinator, like I said, because they were good this year.
Yep. So next we got LSU, Brian Kelly, replacing Ed Orgeron, who parted ways with LSU. Still don't get that one, but I think they landed a pretty damn good coach here.
Yeah. In fact, I was going to say at some point we say who we think won this whole carousel. In my opinion, it's LSU. And I know USC with Lincoln Riley is going to be up there. And, maybe some people would say that for Napier at Florida or Cristobal at Miami as well. I don't think so. I think it'd be between these two. For most people, it's going to be between Lincoln Riley and Brian Kelly. Obviously, you can let me know your opinion on all of it whenever you'd like. But this one for me is the win. Brian Kelly had that level of success at Notre Dame where I think it is really, really difficult to have that level of success. Once again, kind of a think about where they were before him to where they are now or where they were with him, constantly competing on the national level for championship level type success and doing it as an independent with a really tough schedule and without a conference championship game to further bolster that, playoff resume or before that, BCS resume to get into the championship game. Now, once they went and played those schools that had the Jimmies and Joes that they didn't, yeah, they got walked off the field a couple of times, but I'm not surprised by that. And I really don't think that reflects that awfully as him on him that awfully as a coach. I just think that the talent disparity, it was that big. And now he goes to a place where he does not have to worry about that at all. I mean, LSU is, they are they're just a really badass program. I think about Orgeron won a championship with them. LSU won a championship with them. And Nick said their last three coaches all won national championships. Now, one left to go to the NFL and the other two got asked to leave. So it's a high pressure job. But that's because that's what they expect. So that'll be the one thing. Can Brian Kelly handle the pressure of like, not only do you need to be successful, you are in the SEC West where Nick Saban is still coaching and doesn't look like there's a time limit on that right now.
Mm-hmm.
So that's gonna be difficult. But he consistently had top 10 recruiting classes at a place like Notre Dame, so he can recruit. Now he's going to have top twos, threes, fours, and fives. I doubt that under his tenure they come outside of the top, maybe a 6 or a 7 here or there, but I think that'll be outliers. And then on the field, the guy has had multiple different coordinators work for him. He's had a lot of names come through as either grad assistants or coordinators, and has had success with all of them. So I think this is a really, really good hire, even though I think he's kind of a doofus. And I don't think that I like his personality very much, but I really respect the hell out of him as a coach. But yeah,
Yeah.
he's already done some goofy ass shit since they've hired him, with the dancing in the living room with the one recruit. But hey, that's recruiting. But then the whole family and
Yeah.
talking with a southern, like, what?
The fake Southern. That's all right. All right. I'm pretty sure you agree with me as well. One good way to piss off Southerners is to try and fail at a Southern accent.
Oh yeah, yeah, I 100% agree. I mean,
I
and
I would much rather hear a Northern accent or something you try and imitate a Southern accent and
mhm.
fail.
Well, and us being from the South, I don't think either of us or many of the people we associate talk with that Southern of accents. Uh, but we still know it when it's authentic. And in fact, when I'm around somebody who's got a really authentic Southern accent for a long period of time, or a group of people like that, I will speak more Southern
Yeah.
for that period of time, maybe even a day or two more. Like, I'll catch myself. And it can be infectious, but that's because we were raised around it. For you to come down here and like just you've been here for like 24 hours and you're baking that's so weird. It's such a weird look. And yes, I agree. It's a good way to become very disingenuous looking. So
Yeah.
hopefully he can clean that up.
I'm sure he won't do it again.
I don't think so. He got buried for that.
I just like it. That's one of those things that the dancing thing. Honestly, Jim Harbaugh does some
Oh
goofy
yeah,
shit all the time, so
yeah.
we're pretty much used to that kind of stuff. But
Mhm.
him faking the Southern accent, that was oh come on, dude, just go
Yeah.
out there. And now it's like people are thinking, oh, so is this just kind of like a fun stop for him?
Mm,
Not had he just went out there. Can you imagine Nick Saban doing something like that?
no,
Nick
absolutely
Saban
not.
would go out there and be total business. He'd be talking like he talks all the time because this is business like, and I'm here to get things done.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. No, and you know, I know that not every there's only one Nick Saban, and you don't necessarily have to do it the Nick Saban way, because Dabo Swinney is kind of a rah guy at Clemson and has had not a similar level of success, but at least has had years where he's competed on a similar level,
Hmm.
if you know what I'm saying. But for the most part, yeah, I would definitely try my best to emulate as many of the practices as I could, and mannerisms and stoicness and uh, of the greatest college football coach of all time, especially now that you're going to coach against him every single year in what is often considered your school's biggest game of the year in and year out.
Yep. Let's hopefully, like I said, he'll quit on that and get down to business.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, I think it's the SEC West is getting tougher and tougher every year. I
Mm.
mean, it it's gonna be a tough time. Now that we're adding Texas and Oklahoma in as well. Mm,
I mean, it's a murderer's row, but once again, Saban somehow still finds a way to navigate it. So that's going to be Brian Kelly's biggest challenge, coming to a place like LSU. Like you're not going to stay at LSU very long if you don't have success against
mhm.
Nick Saban. I mean,
And honestly, if you do have success one year, but you're not succeeding the next couple, they have no qualms about firing a coach that's a
just keep in
national
mind,
championship coach.
Ed Ogeron won a national championship not 2 years ago, and they asked him to kindly get the hell out already. So
Halfway through one of the seasons.
mhm.
Ooh. So, all right, we got La Tech, who was coached by Skip Holtz, now Sonny Kumbi. He was the Texas Tech offensive coordinator. Again, another one of these smaller schools and a coordinator that I'm not familiar with.
I've heard his name, and that's about it. So, so yeah, I don't really know much about him.
So we'll move on to one of the other big coaching positions. So Lincoln Riley left Oklahoma, shocked the entire world, I think, especially the night before he did it. They asked him if he was going to LSU, and he said no. But he
Yes,
didn't say, "Oh, but I am going to USC."
yeah. So, man, there was a second there, especially like all the LSU recruits that started following him on Twitter and everything. I thought it was a lot that he was going to LSU, and my reasoning why was because why would you stay at Oklahoma coming into the SEC, where that's going. I don't think a lot of Oklahoma and Texas fans realize that their jobs and their schools' path to victory are about to become tougher. Even though, yes, they're joining a more elite conference, that, pretty much if you win the SEC championship, it doesn't matter how many losses you have. You're almost guaranteed to go to a college football playoff right now. That's just the state of college. SEC is king, and everybody knows how difficult it is to be the champion just of this conference. I mean, that's why Alabama is going this year. Even if I think if they had lost to Auburn and then beat Georgia, they would still be going right now. I think they could have afforded that second loss on the resume. That's just how revered the SEC is right now. But my reasoning why I think Lincoln Riley would have thought to himself, hey, my recruiting's about to become more difficult. My opponents are about to become immensely more difficult. Why not go ahead and go to a program where the recruiting's already established? They've already got a tradition in the SEC established. And once again, the last three people there have won at the highest level, at least 1 year. But instead, he did the more cowardly but more intelligent thing.
Yes.
And he's like,
Yes.
no, I'm getting the hell out of here, man. Like, I don't want either one of those jobs. They are both, it's going to be hard and it's difficult. And out west, it's easy. Like, I mean, I'm going to the only real true premier program the Pac-12 has. The only one that has sustained some level of success in pretty much every decade, except for this one, really.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's going to take long at all for him to turn it around. Now, what I will say, why I don't think he's a slam dunk a hire as Brian Kelly is, he took over a Lamborghini and just tuned it up and made it maybe even a little bit faster.
Yeah.
Right now he's taking the keys to maybe a Porsche, maybe even something down from that. It's a nice sports car, but it ain't a Ferrari, it ain't a Lamborghini, it ain't $2 million right now. Not where Helton had him. And Helton didn't recruit very well a lot of his years there. But that is one thing that Lincoln Riley has always been good at. He already has flipped a ton of 5-star and 4-star guys, made his way over there. I don't remember where they finished National Signing Day this week, but no, I think he can get it done. I think it's a really good hire. I think he is going to have success. And once again, I think it's maybe a scared move, but also an incredibly intelligent move to path of least resistance.
Well, also too, so SC is a private school, so they do not have to disclose how much they pay him. But it is known that they did pay for Lincoln Riley's house, or they paid his house off in Oklahoma. So, and Lincoln Riley did not live in a small house.
Yeah, well, the contract detail, it does seem like, and yes, there's definitely some financial aspects to it. Although I feel like I don't know about Oklahoma, even though I know they have a ton of huge boosters and everything. I don't know if he could have strong armed them with the level of sustained success that they've had since Bob Stoops took over, and even before him, Barry Switzer. Oklahoma has been good and competitive year in and year out for 40 years. Uh, so I don't know if he could have really strong armed them, because I feel like just the next man up probably has a really good shot at being. Although they're coming to the SEC now, and maybe once again maybe they don't realize how much more difficult I think life is going to be for them anyways. But I think LSU could have matched almost anything. They pretty much said, I mean, their boosters and administration came out and was like, money is no object for us. um, so I think if he really wanted to get the same amount or similar deal, he probably could have squeezed it from LSU. But it does sound like the details, just the rumors on the deal that he got with USC are it's an exorbitant amount of shit. I think it's close to $15 million a year, at 24/7 access to the private school jet anytime.
Yep.
Paid off his house in Oklahoma, and I think rumored bought him 2 more houses in Los Angeles. Not a cheap. I mean, even if he had gotten a 1-bedroom, 1-bath, that's a $200,000 house.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that ain't what he got.
Yep. Well, I mean, I think they're definitely willing to pay for that, especially just how much they hated Clay Helton. And I'm not talking about even the fans, like the higher ups and the athletic director. They hated Clay Helton. They wanted to lose just so they could fire him with cause. Multiple years. It seemed like they were so disappointed whenever he would win.
It was incredibly reminiscent of the end of Les Miles' tenure at LSU.
Yes.
Where LSU fans were booing when they were comeback winning or when they lose the first 2 or 3 or drop 2 or 3 early in a season, and then come back to an 8-4, 9-3 win season, and then like heads hung at the end of the season, even though you're winning games. It reminded me of that a lot. It's like, we want this guy the hell out. And which is crazy because Clay Helton seems like the nicest guy, but I also understand it kind of seemed like he showed you what he was going to be. He was going to have a slightly above mediocre level of success at a program that has, I mean, it's used to winning and being competitive on the national level. So I think that this hire definitely is probably going to do that for them. More than likely, anyways. I'd give it a 90% chance that Lincoln Riley wins a Pac-12 title in his first 3 years and is knocking on the door, if not in the playoffs, within 4. And I think that timeline might be generous. I think he might have that kind of success in his first season or 2. But we'll see.
My only thing is, like you said, with Clay Helton, he was not a very good recruiter. Whereas when he stepped into that Oklahoma job, basically he was recruiting the player. He had already been recruiting the offensive players anyway. So he already had his offense set up the way he wanted it. Whereas here, he's coming fresh. I think it takes at least 2-3 years where he can start getting some of his guys in and getting Clay Helton's guys out. I think it's going to take some time.
You certainly could be right. That's the thing is he doesn't have, once again, that competent of the cars. I mean, he took over a ready-made program. Now he's going to have to build USC back up because it's just not in a position to be elite right this second. But the good news for him, speaking of Mario Cristobal in Miami, where it's a hotbed, and I didn't even mention Kelly in Louisiana, another hotbed of talent right now. They've moved themselves up, Florida, Louisiana, Texas, and California. But guess where Lincoln Riley's at? He is in the heartbed of California, and California sends out talent all over the nation. Just look at Alabama's roster. There's probably 15 guys from California on it right this second. And if he can start keeping those guys at home, I mean,
yeah.
And freshmen play sooner now than they ever have. But yeah, I mean, it's going to be he's going to have to do that kind of work in order to get success fast or at all. Got to keep the boys home.
Yep. Got to keep the Najee Harrises and the
Bryce Young's.
Bryce Youngs, all these guys. You gotta try and keep them there.
Yeah,
And
keep Tua from flying from Hawaii across the world. No, we're much closer.
yeah, I mean, his whole family uprooted themselves and moved to Homewood.
Yep.
So, all right, next up we got TCU, who let go of Gary Patterson, their longtime coach, and hired Sonny Dykes. I mean, like I said, Gary Patterson was there for a good while
Oh yeah,
and had a lot of success with TCU, but honestly, the past 5 years or so, they've just been, I mean, ever since 2014, they were in the mix going into the playoffs, and then after that, it just seemed kind of like they just dropped to mediocre.
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't know what the change was, but there was no buzz around the program. I actually understand why they moved on from them because they were still usually above 500,
Mm-hmm.
and deep into the season, technically in competition for a Big 12 title, and they'd usually drop one or two at the end. They'd knock them out, but yeah, I it just got stale. It just got stagnant there. So I understand them moving on from Gary and Sonny Dykes. Well, I mean he's really well respected. He's a innovative offensive guy, and he's had a lot of success at Southern Methodist. I think he's going to have success with TCU. Now, do I think that he's going to have TCU to the heights that Gary Patterson did have them, where they were like 2 or 3 years in a hunt for a national championship spot, in the BCS, and then that 1 year, first year of the college football playoff? I don't know. I mean, TCU is a tough program to have that success at, and now with the Big 12, and their realignment and expansion, losing it's going to be tough. But I think it's a good hire, though. I think it's a good hire, and I think he'll be successful.
Yeah. Well, I mean, at least he was at Southern Methodist, a Texas school, so he knows how to recruit Texas and he knows how to recruit the area. And honestly, he'll have a bigger name to do it with this time.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. And
so I think it's a good fit for them. Next up, we got Washington. We got Kalen DeBoer, who was the Fresno State coach, and he replaces Jimmy Lake. So I really have not been keeping up much with Washington these past couple of years. Ever since they were in the playoffs, after that, it just seemed like they slid.
yeah. Well, Jimmy Lake, kind of a handpicked guy by Chris Peterson. When Chris Peterson decided to walk away, he told them, I think Jimmy Lake is his defensive coordinator, and he's like, this guy's ready. This guy's ready to take over. I think this is only Lake's second year. But it seemed like it was off the field stuff that got him. I know he kind of hit a player's helmet at one point during the season, but it was kind of like a get back. Like, he was trying to stop that player from instigating a fight, and
Yeah.
I know that kind of blew up. It kind of seemed like they were building a case to get Lake out. And I don't know if he pissed somebody off, because he had a successful first year, and then this second year was, it was a down year, but it's still, I think it was about 500 when they finally decided to just walk away. 5-3 or something.
Mm-hmm.
But you're, I don't know. I don't know what the internal strife was, but yeah, Washington on the national picture has not been relevant for quite some time. I do think that they played or were supposed to play for the North last year, but
They
because of
couldn't.
COVID, Oregon ended up playing for the Pac-12 North and then winning
And
again.
then the second,
Yeah.
that was the shining moment of the Pac-12 is like
Yes.
you're third in line access to play and ends up winning.
Yeah. Exactly, and that's how they won their Pac-12 title. But and then for DeBoer, I know Fresno State was kicking ass early on in the season. Then I think had some hiccups um, down the stretch. I think they still finished with I know they got shellacked in their bowl yesterday. I can't remember what their record was, but I don't know much about them otherwise.
Yep. I don't
So
I don't really
and
know much either.
yeah, and that yeah, Washington is a program that obviously can have success because people throughout the years have had success. It doesn't seem like a sustainable level of success ever.
Yeah. All right. So we got SMU. We talked about Sonny Dykes leaving, and we got Rhett Lashley, who was the former offensive coordinator at Miami. So what do you think about this one? CBS is giving it an A minus.
Yeah, I think they're out of their damn minds. I it also says has a way with quarterbacks for Rhett Lashley, and I don't know if you know this, but at one point, De'Aaron King, who he had for 2 years with Miami, was projected as a first rounder in the NFL,
Mm-hmm.
and he lost his job this year to a true freshman
Yeah.
who came out and seemed to have all the talent in the world, and then progressively got worse as the season went on for him. So I don't know what CBS is talking about with Lashley. And then I saw him at Auburn, and he runs a Gus Malzahn like type system, or at least has in the past. He's got his own twists on it and everything. I don't dislike the guy. I'm pulling for him, I guess. But I definitely wouldn't call this an A minus hire. I don't think he's had that much offensive success anywhere he's been.
Yeah.
I don't know his numbers at UConn, but I know Miami's offense was never great while he was there, and they had talent. Like I said, I mean,
It's Miami.
yeah. So, and in a weak ACC,
Yeah.
and the offense was never just blowing people away. So, I'd give it more like a C, maybe even a C minus. But maybe it'll prove me wrong.
Yeah. All right. So the next one, Billy Napier finally getting into his chance at a Power 5 school and a damn good Power 5 school in Florida. And so he replaces Dan Mullen, who I'm going to say this right now. Dan Mullen has got to be the most overrated coach in a long time.
Yeah,
Because everywhere he go, Mississippi State, and it's like he was mediocre at Mississippi State. And it was, he can't get the recruits, so he goes to Florida. And yeah, he made a lot of he made it to a couple of SEC championships, but he usually got beat every time. I don't understand why everybody keeps like saying that he is a premier level coach when I just don't see it.
I think he's one of those guys that he's meant to do more with less. So therefore, he looks like a better coach. But once he gets, or at least the one time he got an actual, that's great. Yeah, but once he got a premier job, I mean, had some success on the field. It was notorious even back at Mississippi State. In fact, once he made the move to Florida, all of the Mississippi State fans and Ole Miss fans, like, you guys are going to hate him nationally now. Now that he's in the national picture, and it's not just us, our local shows talking about all these quirks and how he's
Mhm.
kind of a jerk, very, very cocky, very, very arrogant. Um, it's like y'all are going to hate him, and they were not wrong. It did not take long, even with some success on the field, for people to just start thrashing him because he's so, I don't know, unbearable almost. Like, he goes out of his way to try and pick fights and say the wrong things on purpose almost, it felt like. I don't know, but yeah, these last 2 years at Florida definitely were getting to him, and the fact he once again, what they were saying coming from Mississippi State, it's like, he's not a recruiter. He doesn't like to do it. He doesn't grind, and I think that's a reason why his name was constantly getting floated for NFL jobs. And I bet that he has some pretty serious interest in something like that perhaps one day,
Mhm.
because that they don't have to recruit. It's a lot less travel to it. Uh, but yeah, I agree with you. I'd say, all in all, he's pretty overrated, and definitely did not get it done at Florida the way that a lot of people thought that he was.
Yeah.
And now Napier, the only thing I know about him is that he kicked ass with the Raging Cajuns. So, and his name was up for every job last year, and for a lot of jobs the year before that. He's had that level of success in Louisiana, and now he's got one of those jobs. So we'll see what he does with it. I know that he's super. Florida and Billy Napier, like, lost the press battle as epically as anybody could possibly lose the press battle, because it couldn't have been 24 hours between him getting hired and Lincoln Riley going to USC.
Mm-mm.
And then nobody talked about this, but now that we
Yep.
are talking about it, I think it's a good hire. It's always a gamble, somebody going from a program that's so far away from Power Five program level, like the Cajuns are. Now, granted, he got them to a level where they could compete with tons of Power Five schools, but
Mm.
now you're going to compete in the SEC week in and week out. It's a whole different monster, and Florida is a job that has broken pretty much everybody who's been there in my lifetime. Maybe not Spurrier. Spurrier wanted the challenge of the NFL. Uh,
Yeah.
and other than that, damn near
Ron
killed Urban Meyer.
Ron Zook, Urban Meyer,
Dan
uh,
Mullen now.
Dan Mullen, Jim McElwain,
Oh,
um, the crazy guy that was at South Carolina.
oh yeah.
He was at
Yeah.
Auburn for 1 year. I can't think of his name. He's fucking nuts though. That's all
Yeah.
I remember about
Great defensive. Will Muschamp.
Will Muschamp. I mean, they've had their fair share of coaches. It's a lot of them that were supposed to be, these higher tier premier coaches.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So we'll see how it works out.
Yeah. I mean, I know nothing about Billy Napier. I know, I think that he actually was getting more consideration for the Auburn job. I think there was like some real interest in contact, and in true Auburn fashion, I believe he said, "I want the Nick Saban level of control." Like, that was one of his sticking points. Like, I don't want boosters who pay, for stuff around here, thinking they can just come in my office whenever they want, or
Yeah.
give me weekly suggestions, this or the other. Like, they pay the money. I will tell you guys, which Scott, is there Strickland or Woodward? And I know the other one's at LSU, the AD. I think it's
Yeah.
Scott Strickland at Florida. Anyways, whichever one it is, the athletic director is like, you handle them, and then I will tell you what to tell them that I need, whether facilities or
Hmm.
um, any kind of upgrade, training program, stuff like that, and then I'll coach my team on the field. And Auburn was like, no, we can't do that. And
Don't let
that's one of the things that people have said around the Auburn program for years. Like until these fat cats and their wallets get the hell out of the training facilities, and it's just this cycle that, much like the Florida cycle, except for without that level of success, really.
yeah. The ironic part of this, though, is Billy Napier's going to Florida, where Steve Spurrier has his own office, like close to the practice field, and is notorious for walking on the practice field and telling coaches how to do things.
That is true, and I'm very curious to see how that goes.
I
And
wonder if he's crossing his fingers, hoping one of the new USFL teams picks up Spurrier, so it gets him the hell out of there.
could be. And I also think that he probably backed off a lot of those demands because a program like Florida is different than a program like Auburn.
Yeah,
It's larger. It's in Florida. Once again, it is in the hotbed. It is the program of its state, although it actually has more competition for recruits in its state. Not only people coming and poaching, but when Florida State's good and when Miami are good, all three of them have experienced some pretty massive levels of success, whereas Auburn and Alabama are the only two in this state have to worry about competing. But yeah, so he probably did back off a little bit because Florida is all in all probably not probably it's a better job than Auburn, or the potential. It's a bigger job, I guess. It's a bigger job than Auburn.
yeah.
So
So I'm gonna skip over some of these. So Washington State hired Jake Dickert after they fired their former coach for not getting the jab. Uh, yeah, I still I still think that's absolutely
yeah.
ridiculous. But uh, Clay Helton got the Georgia Southern job. I think that is like they said, an A+ for Georgia Southern.
Yeah, and Georgia Southern, they they usually have some pretty good talent for that level, for sure. And look, I mean, Helton was 46-24 at USC. That's not terrible. And he's a Southern guy.
Mm-hmm.
That was a lot of people, I think, problem with him on the West Coast is it didn't feel like a natural fit. Now he's back, Southeastern roots, Southeastern program. Um, so yeah, I think it is a home run for them, and probably will be a breath of fresh air for him.
Yes, yes, I think so. That he's not basically, being rooted against every
Yeah,
week.
exactly. Like that, just negativity coming at you has got to be heavy at some point.
Yes,
And then, yeah, I don't even know these other programs.
yeah. The only Texas
Oh,
Tech,
more.
Joey McGuire,
Yeah.
uh, former Baylor linebackers coach. I mean, I don't really know much about him, but hey,
Yeah.
they seem to seem to be a pretty good grade. So, all right, let's move on to, because that went a lot longer than I thought it was going to.
Yes. Same here. I definitely thought that was going to be like a 30-minute, and we've turned it into hour and 20.
Hour and 20. So games are coming up close in a little bit. So let's go through these NFL games that we got real quick, and then we'll call it. We'll end the string. So Thursday night, Kansas City beat the Chargers in overtime. It
I
was,
mean,
from what I heard, a really good game that I missed.
yeah, and look out, uh, but or don't look now. But Kansas City, who had a really shaky start, has the best record in the AFC now, with New
Yep.
England losing last night to the Colts. And up until that game against the Chargers, now it was the Chargers' game to lose for the most part. They've had a lot of control of that game, but give it to the Chiefs. They kept fighting. Some bounces went their way. The analytics told the Chargers to go for it on 2 really weird 4th and 1 situations that they didn't convert on, which really set Kansas City up nice and cost the Chargers 2 field goals, which, it's different to the game.
Yep.
It's different than going to overtime if they just kicked the 1 field goal.
Yeah.
Anywho, and then so Kansas City's getting it done with defense, except for their star players on offense. Travis Kelce, Patrick Mahomes, and Tyreek Hill are all still monsters.
Yeah. Then we had New England and the Colts last night. Colts ended up winning that one 27-17. Again, we had a family function, so I missed all of this one.
I was able to get home in time to watch the end. It looked like the Colts had, I think I tuned in and they were up 17-0. Maybe even 20-0 at that point. Maybe I got and they were kicking that field goal. They had control of that guy. The score is closer than what the game looked like to me. Although I will say the Patriots seem like they were not going silently into the night. A lot of fight there. But Jonathan Taylor, another guy and the red hot Colts, man, it's another team. Look out, AFC. It's going to get hot for this playoff push for a lot of people.
Yep. So we got Carolina at Buffalo. What's your thoughts on that one?
I really, really like Matt Rule, but this Carolina team is just fairly uninspiring. And I understand why they let go of Joe Brady because Cam Newton's not getting it done. He had that one opening week where he didn't start but contributed heavily in the rushing game. I think ran for 2 touchdowns. And I think went 3 or 5 passes. Second week was pretty good, and then these 2 subsequent weeks have been awful. And so we'll see what they do offensively now. I think this is their first game with Joe Brady not coordinating for them, but I'm not positive on that. If it's not their first, it's their second. And then Buffalo's they're still a really good, talented team. They're not having the season that they wanted or that I thought that they would have, especially at the beginning of the season, how hot they were. But I still think this is Buffalo's game to lose, especially in Buffalo.
Yeah. Hey, tickets $7.
Hey.
All right, Arizona, Detroit. We pretty much know that. Yeah, it's Arizona right now versus Detroit.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yep.
The Jets versus Miami. I mean,
I get Miami's still technically in the hunt, so I guess if you're a Miami fan, you're excited or not excited. You're still watching, but if you're a Jets fan, golly, I'm sorry.
Yeah. Dallas at New York. And our very own co-host Cody here telling you to shut up.
Hey, I still really like that Lions team. They are. I swear, if they come on Red Zone or if they're on the TV or their game, I'll tune in. I don't turn the Lions off. I still like watching them play, and I do think that if they can find somebody to deliver the football with consistent accuracy downfield. Jared Goff's consistently accurate, anything 0 to 15-ish, but he just, first off, he seems scared to throw the deep ball, and when he does, I understand why he's scared. It's not always there for him, even though he's got a cannon for an arm. He just isn't consistently accurate deep, and he doesn't seem to want to take a lot of chances. He doesn't have a lot of gunslinger in him. I kind of think that's what they need right now. But this team, that Lions team plays balls to the wall every single time I watch them. They do not give up, even though they do generally lose. Yes, 1-11-1. That's. I am sorry, Cody.
All right, we got Dallas at New York. New York Giants. Looks like Dallas is probably gonna take care of this one.
Yeah, I think so. But that's another team that has just been riddled with inconsistency, and Dak Prescott's play down the stretch here has been shit. So I don't know what's going on there, if he's injured or if something internal. But yes, this still should be their game to to if the Giants win, I think it's because Dallas gave it away.
They have a top 3 pick in every draft and have not drafted a QB early in my adult life.
What
That is
really
true.
sucks, Cody, is that this year would be the perfect year to do it if there was a top 3 level quarterback to take, but I don't see one. I mean,
Yeah.
maybe Kenny Pickett, maybe it's Matt Corral, maybe it's Sam Howell, but those guys are all big. Now, to be fair, every quarterback from college to the NFL is a maybe, at least historically speaking.
Yes.
There's more busts than successes, but it does seem here of late that the success rate is starting to kind of turn that, like a Lamar Jackson, Kyler Murray. Maybe you can count Baker Mayfield. He's still a little inconsistent. Joe Burrow though, Justin Herbert,
Mac
and
Jones.
yeah, Mac
Tua.
Jones. Tua's jury's out, but he's definitely playing better.
Yeah.
The success does seem to translate more now than it ever has. But that's the thing; those guys that I just listed, the top quarterbacks in this draft, what success have they had? I mean, yeah, it's the worst year to have a pick like that. Although maybe you can, with especially the draft capital that they're going to have because of all of their picks plus the Rams. Maybe you go trade for a guy,
Yeah.
Maybe you go get somebody. You can probably get Deshaun Watson if he gets cleared out of all this. Now, do you want him? I sure as hell wouldn't. But
yeah,
his talent is inarguable.
that's one of those, like, it really depends on how desperate you are.
Mm-hmm.
And Detroit may be that desperate. All right, so we got Tennessee at Pittsburgh. Tennessee still without Derrick Henry. They just, I don't know.
I mean, they're probably going to be or probably right now. I don't know. I haven't looked at the lines today. In fact, yeah, get it. Anyways, I'd say, yeah, I think Tennessee's going to win. Ryan Tannehill still, keeps coming at people. I think they're still top to bottom a little bit more solid than Pittsburgh is right now. Although Pittsburgh has played, pretty scrappy of late. Even though you just never know which Pittsburgh team you're going to get. They're kind of a game to game type team. But I'd say Tennessee, even Derrick Henry lists, and they're still fighting. Well, both teams, everybody's fighting for a playoff spot pretty much, other than like the very bottom. There's like 13 teams in the league with 6-7 or 7-6 records, and then with Pittsburgh, because they have a 6-6-1, they make 14. That's half the league is right there. That's insane.
Yeah. So, all right, so we got Houston and Jacksonville, the game of the two worst teams in the league.
I have no comment on that game. Other than I'm excited to see this Jacksonville squad without Urban Meyer because I think that he was a cancer to them. I think that the next guy that gets that job is actually inheriting a lot of talent. I was really surprised what a shit show that job or that team was this year. One of the worst teams I've ever seen. And that team did not look like a team that was playing like much to the antithesis of the Lions. It seemed like they were playing in spite of their coach, not for their coach. And his yanking of James Robinson so many times. Now, I know Robinson had some key fumbles a couple of times, but to doghouse your best player like that, I mean.
And a rising star in the NFL.
Yeah. And then, allegedly kicking players, cussing coaches out, belittling them, and rubbing other stars, a screaming match with Marvin Jones Jr., who has put up his numbers everywhere he's been until now. Seemed like Trevor Lawrence didn't like him. They didn't seem to gel that well. No screaming matches, but they definitely didn't look, like a lovey-dovey relationship there. So yeah, maybe they can go ahead and start the turnaround for the next guy. And I'd like to see that team do well. I like a lot of those players. I like Trevor Lawrence, even though, he's got a very unique look. And then James Robinson, like you said, rising star. Shark, I think, has been injured most of the year. They've got a lot of talent on that team.
Yeah, I don't understand you have, like I said, a rising star running back in the NFL. You have a brand new rookie quarterback. Why are you taking your running back out?
Mm. I do not know. And then putting in Carlos Hyde, who is serviceable, but
Yeah,
he is not a starter.
no, and it has
He
never been.
oh, like I
He
think,
has been for a couple of games in his entire career,
yeah. I
but
think he had 1 or 2 seasons really solid starting running back numbers, but I think both of those seasons he suffered injuries in as
mhm.
well. And now he's probably closing in on his 10th year in the league. I mean, so he's not a spring chicken anymore either. Whereas this is James Robinson's second year and led the NFL in a lot of key running back categories last year and has had a lot of really solid games this year. And still, you choose to yank him and then keep him on the bench. I get if you pull him for the series that he fumbled on, and maybe the next series he doesn't start on the first down. I really,
Yeah,
still, once again, this is a pro ball player who is at his best an elite level running back. I mean, it's bush league shit. I'm really glad Urban
and
Meyer's out.
and it's
And
one of those things like, all right, who's behind? Like when people say, "Oh, we should fire this coach." It's like, well, who are you going to get this better? Yeah, like with James Robinson, yeah, he's a fumble prone a little bit right now, but what's behind him?
yeah. I mean, so
The
you'd rather start Carlos
the
Hyde to prove your point,
yeah,
even though you know that that's like a significant drop in overall talent and ability.
yeah. So
Which, yeah, I will not be tuning into that game if I can help it at all.
no, more than likely that'll be the game that one of the games they'll have on TV here.
Jesus, especially in our area, man. Good
Yeah.
lord.
So we got the Bengals at Denver.
I think there's really two evenly matched teams. Especially the Bengals being so inconsistent. I think at their best, they can beat anybody. At their worst, they can lose to anybody. And
Hmm.
it doesn't seem like they really play the in between. They either play great or they play shitty. Denver seems like a little bit more consistent. They're very solid. They're not great. They're not terrible. They're just very solid. Um, Given the right breaks, they can beat the best teams. But I think that would be a lot of balls have to bounce their way, and vice versa. Ball doesn't bounce their way. They've lost to some pretty shitty teams this year as well. So I think
Hmm.
that'll be a good game.
All right. Atlanta at San Francisco. Atlanta has been absolutely atrocious this year, offensively. Defensively, they've been serviceable. And San Francisco, honestly, I've really seen much from them this year.
They are
I know you have.
they're red hot right now. Now they just dropped one to the Seahawks a week or two ago. And but it's just kind of the thing in the NFC West. Uh, the Niners beat the Rams beat the Seahawks beat the Niners. And then it's kind of a mixed bag up until this year, what you were going to get with the Cardinals. A lot of times it's just 1-1 splits between these teams. That's just how it's been since Shanahan and McVay took over. So it's just kind of a yips thing against the Seahawks for them. Other than that, though, they're still incredibly hot. Their biggest problem is injuries.
Hmm.
Golly, since Shanahan has been there, they've got to be the most injury prone team I've ever seen. And the one year that they didn't have major injuries rampant through the whole program, they went to the Super Bowl and had the Chiefs in down to the wire, leading by 10 over halfway through the fourth.
Hmm.
Um, but they're getting a little bit healthier right now, getting healthy at the right time. I think it's probably San Fran's game here. I don't know if they'll walk Atlanta off the field, but they are playing in San Francisco in Candlestick. I think it could get out of hand.
Yep. So we got Green Bay at Baltimore. I mean, Green Bay and Baltimore both pretty solid teams this year.
I think one's going in the right direction, one's going in the wrong direction, unfortunately, and that's a lot. I think Lamar Jackson's still questionable. He might have made their determination by now for his ankle, but since they're the afternoon game, maybe they haven't. Um, if he plays, then yeah, this could still be a very good game. If he doesn't play, I don't think it'll be that good of a game because Green Bay is headed in the right direction. Because even with a healthy Lamar, Baltimore's had some weird hiccups over these last few weeks,
Mm-hmm.
and Green Bay has not. They are. Well, I mean, I guess the Vikings got them, which is odd, but Vikings still a solid team, and it was a hell of a game still. So, uh, I'd call Green Bay, but if Lamar plays, then yes, this could still be entertaining. If he doesn't, I think Green Bay probably wins going away.
All right. So we got New Orleans at Tampa Bay. What you think about that one?
Um, I I'd be pretty shocked if Tampa Bay loses to the most overpaid and overrated player.
Backup quarterback.
He's getting paid like old a few years ago starting quarterback money. And I mean, now is he dangerous with his legs? Absolutely. He does some pretty phenomenal stuff with his legs, but the man cannot throw consistent NFL passes except for, to the defenders. Oh, okay. Thanks, Cody. Yeah. So, I'll still watch it because Baltimore, I don't know, for whatever reason, I always just like watching them play. They're a very, very tough team. All those AFC North teams have a tough mentality to them. But yeah, I'd be shocked if Tampa Bay loses to New Orleans. And the only reason I'm going to watch is to see if something's changed with Taysom Hill yet. Like, or is this the guy that they just gave a bag of money to be mediocre or worse? Really?
Yeah. I mean, I would see paying him that much money to play a bunch of different positions, but he was always on the field.
Mm-hmm.
Like if he was lining up a tight end or splitting out or in the backfield as a running back and a part of every play, but he really doesn't even before, with Drew Brees and then Winston, he really wasn't doing that.
No,
He come in like maybe one or two plays a drive, and that was it.
no, he was a gadget guy, like a weird gadget play guy that you brought in, and it's so weird. I really don't understand Sean Payton's fascination with this cat because I would dare to say it might have cost them games, just the momentum swings when Drew Brees is getting pulled off the field or
Mm-hmm.
missing series for this dude to play because you want some weird gadget, you know, innovative offensive play that you can't do with Drew Brees, who is a first ballot shoe-in Hall of Famer, probably one of your top three to no one could possibly argue him being out of the top 6 or 7 quarterbacks of all time getting taken off the field for this guy. And Hill might be the nicest guy in the world. I don't know, but he is not the ball player that Peyton treats him like or pays
Yeah.
him like.
Yeah. All right, and then tomorrow we got actually 2 games because one of them was postponed because of all the COVID cases. But we got Las Vegas at Cleveland. Raiders have I don't know what the hell has happened to them. I mean, I guess I really do know what's happened to them. They've
Yeah.
had they've had
Little internal turmoil.
way too many front page
Yep.
controversies going on.
Yep.
And Cleveland is, the normal kind of modern Cleveland they seem.
Yeah. They're a team. They go as Baker Mayfield goes, and Baker Mayfield has had some pretty down weeks lately, and then his responses in the media and his physical demeanor on the sidelines. It's not the Baker we saw early, where he actually seemed to be handling the pressure or the lack of success with some grace that was not really expected, given some of his behavior in college.
Mm-hmm.
Now it kind of seems to be showing through a little bit, and maybe he can get it turned around. When he's on, I actually like watching him play, and obviously I think the commercials he does for I can't even remember that like stadium being his house thing. It cracked me up, and I think it's really endeared him to a lot of people and allowed people to like him, even though out of college he just came off as such a dickhead.
Yep.
So yeah, I don't know what you're going to get in that game. I think Cleveland should have the upper hand. They've definitely got more talent and more internal stability. But once again, team goes as Baker goes, and Baker has been shaky lately. So
All right. And then later tomorrow night, we got Minnesota at Chicago.
I'm actually going to watch this game. Fields is making some strides forward. I think that the best thing they can do is get rid of Matt Nagy. I mean, I feel like maybe just go ahead and rip that Band-Aid off, honestly. I don't know, but they still got some talent on the roster, and Fields looks better week to week in and week out. He seems like he's making progress, even though he's still very much a rookie, very much an unfinished product. He's definitely got the tools. And then the Vikings, when they're on, and when they're off, they're off. They're very much like the Bengals. At their best, I think they can play with pretty much anybody, and then at their worst, they can lose to pretty much anybody. So that'll be a fun game.
All righty. And then Tuesday, because of COVID, we got Seattle at Los Angeles Rams, which I know you probably have a lot to talk about with this one.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a huge Rams fan. Like I said, we've pretty much had Seattle's number since McVay has been there. I think he's 8-2 against them, maybe even a little bit better than that. I don't know. I think we've only lost him the 2 times though. But theory of large numbers, right? So that's got to give sometimes. So maybe this is the time. But we're playing in SoFi, so I have a little bit of home field advantage. Other than the major injuries where like players aren't coming back, like Cam Akers and stuff, seem to be pretty healthy. Not a ton of bang ups. It looks like Darrell Henderson got activated from the COVID list. Odell Beckham Jr., I believe, got activated. Bringing a lot of our name guys back from the COVID protocol. So we should have a full cupboard of weaponry. So I feel pretty good about it. But, that's and then Seattle looks like they're kind of moving in the wrong direction, and the rumor mill of will Russ be a Seahawk, will Pete Carroll be a Seahawk, all of that, and Auburn hiring their quarterbacks coach. They're dealing with some off the field stuff as well as not being great on the field right now.
And then the last one on Tuesday, which honestly I don't think has any real implications, but Washington at Philadelphia. Is Philly still starting Jalen Hurts? Or is he still hurt? I know they had been riding the mustache wave.
That is a good question for this game. Cody might know.
I know they'd been going with Minshew here recently, and Washington's still kind of just having that okay season. But
yeah, I mean, obviously, you know which game I'm going to be watching since they come on at the same time. Washington and Philly is kind of a rat game, but it's also kind of a good game in that it's a rat game. I think they're incredibly evenly matched. And if it's Heineke versus Minshew, or if it's Heineke versus Jalen Hurts, I think it's an incredibly good quarterback matchup. I'd say out of those 3, I'd prefer Hurts because of what he can do with his legs. He can do a little bit more with his legs than Heineke, and I think they're similar in what they can do passing the ball. And then I'd say Minshew's the best passer out of the 3, but obviously he's limited in his mobility. I mean, he's not a statue by any means, but he's not going to kill you on the ground. And then the teams around him, I'd say it's pretty similar, other than maybe Devontae Smith. I think that he is probably the best. Well, I don't know. Chase Young is a bad man.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm sure what's going on, but Minshew has looked better than Hurts lately.
Yes, yeah. When Minshew's on, he's good. He just doesn't have all of the physical gifts. He doesn't have a crazy strong arm. He's not super fast or super, agile, anything, but he's makes really smart decisions. He's accurate within his range, and he's very scrappy, very gritty.
And apparently some Broncos related news regarding Hurts.
Oh,
I'll have to check that out later. But
yeah.
we've been going for an hour and 45. It is
Time to prep up for
noontime.
these games.
It is noontime here, which means it is first games are starting out today. So thank you everyone for joining, especially you, Cody, for participating in the chat as well.
Yes, thank you a ton.
And it was fun. Cunado, you got anything to end off with?
I do for any of the viewers, whether you watch this live or recap this, who tune into any of our fantasy football cast that we do, Brothers-In-Flaws. This guy, this way, first round of the playoffs for him right now, about to get started in just 15 minutes. So good luck, Normie. I know you're playing Harry and the Blood Spurts, which is Harrison and Will's team. And they had Jonathan Taylor, so started in a hole, started in a really big hole. I saw the game that he had last night. I'm sure you have too by now.
Yeah.
But good luck, man. I guess we'll probably be texting throughout the games here.
Yeah. Well, thank you. And I'm definitely going to need it. So, yeah. Anyway, it's been fun. And we'll see everybody next time.
Yes, sir. We'll see you guys.